All right, hi there, guys. G'day, Gino. How are you, mate? Just let me know if you can hear me okay. We'll get up and racing. Okay, hope we had a good weekend. Okay, let's just get up and running then. G'day, Helen. All right, let's get going. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Trade Setup and live stream. What are we up to now? The 20th of August, so ticking along nicely. Not a bad day today, I guess. Pretty much flat. I thought it might have opened up a bit earlier, and the ASX opened up a bit higher, but no, I think we're only up about 4 to 5 points at current. We'll see how that's going. G'day, Paul. So today we'll just go through the usual, go through what happened on Friday, how the market closed on Friday, um, where we're at. I think there's been a couple of good earnings out recently. A couple of us smacked a few stocks around a bit, which we just unfortunately got caught up in one today. Um, we'll have a look at what our market's doing, and we'll open up a bit earlier to just trade. So we'll get ready, chuck in some shares that we're going to take a look at, have a bit of a look through, analyze a bit, rather than go too much into what we're doing and the overall markets. I'm sure we had everyone had a chance to look at the weekend. Sorry, have a look over the weekend at what's been happening and what's driving the markets at the moment. So on Friday, um, the US they were actually up okay. They were pretty well. I think Europe took it a bit harder because I think Europe have got a lot more exposure to these emerging markets, and I think that's the bigger problem at the moment. I don't know. I read a good article today. It was quite interesting, but it's very bearish, obviously, um, for a potential another crash. So what they were looking at, let's just get this down actually. Let's get my charts across. There we go. So Europe, like we're saying, if anyone's had a bit of a read about the Turkish lira, the thing I was reading this morning, the article I was reading this morning was more geared up towards Turkey being sort of maybe um, the first in a line of a bit of how would you say crashing or defaults, debt defaults, global debts, where it used to be banks might fold under the pressure of trying to refinance debt, or if there's a bit of a run on the bank when they're times of crisis. Now it's small countries, say like Turkey, who have to, with the lira running a lot higher, it costs a lot more to refinance their debt, and they're heavily in debt to banks around Europe and especially US. I think all their debt's denominated in US dollars and euro. So there's going to be a bit of exposure to that market if there is a bit of, it's going to be a problem going forward, and there's going to be a bit of contagion you would expect flowing through to the markets, especially emerging markets. So that could be I guess, the near-term problem for the markets at the moment. Obviously, we've got that didn't affect the market as much on Friday night in the US. It did Europe, like I was just saying. In Europe, I think the DAX was, I think the FTSE was up slightly, and the ever so slightly, but the DAX was lower, not a lot. But there's also on sort of weighing against that, well, offsetting that a bit is potentially China and the US are going to get into talks and negotiate about the tariffs. So that was a bit of a positive. And then you've got the lira. Lira took a bit of a nosedive again on Friday, and that's obviously a looming negative. And I think as you start analysing it and looking into it, it could have a bit of a flow-on effect. And there's talk of another potentially GFC and a major correction as we got the cost of debt rises across the world. Um, countries are more and more indebted, especially emerging markets, in terms of US dollars. So it'd be interesting to see how that all goes. I'm not a bear at all, but I find that sort of stuff, it's always good to have it on the back burner and just realize, I guess, what could be happening with these major news flows globally and whether it's going to tip us all over. But until then, the market's heading higher. After all that doomsday, the market is is still looking quite positive. We'll get across to just take a quick look. So the US, I mean, you've got this support on the S&P, which has touched down on a couple of times now around 28. So that's quite clear. That's your high low. Now, if we start building from here a bit of a lower high and pressing down, then there might be a few problems because we are approaching these all-time highs at was it 28.72. So it could start to weigh on the market. You're coming towards the end of earnings and over in the US, so there might not be quite as strong a catalyst on the upside. Obviously, if China and US come to some sort of agreement, it might get that euphoria a bit of a kick higher because I think a lot of analysts saying over in the US that the earnings that came out should have been, it should be seeing the market a lot higher. So maybe there could be a bit of catch up. Now, if there's no, um, I guess nothing happens between US and China and they walk away without any sort of negotiations or deals or anything in place, then couple that with what's happening in emerging markets and lira or Turkey, it could be enough just to tip this market over and push it down through 28. So again, we're news driven, but this market is still looking quite good. I mean, that structure of what we're seeing, the price action, what we're seeing here, is well and truly looking quite nice. Um, even on the weekly, we've had the weekly push up, had a good pullback. A lot of heat's come out of that market. Pretty much a good part of this year. 6 to 8 months of this year so far. We're in August, so when it started in Feb or Jan, end of Jan. So there's a bit of heat coming out the market. We're approaching those highs, so it's whether we pop through the highs and pull back and build a major high low, and then off we go again and keep grinding higher, or there is a deeper correction on the cards, which is, I guess, what your bears are raging about at the moment. G'day, Ali. Let's get on to the Dow. Dow is, look, they had that little press down to 25,000. It's bounced back up to these highs, previous highs. I'll make that a bit thicker. Previous highs at 25,692, say 25,700. We just touched through that, did we? Oh, we nearly closed above it. So we just pushed up above the previous high. We did too. 9.2, close 6, yeah. So just pressed above that, just closed above that close as well. So that could be a bit of a washout of those lows. I think this is more conducive to what's happening in China just at this stage, and they'll be focused on the near term rather than down the track. And see if this market, see if the Dow can just press up through these highs, then you've got your next stage is sort of looking up towards 25,800, which is only a few hundred points away. And then after that, you pretty much got the all-time highs on the DAX. So, sorry, that's on the Dow. And the FTSE, it's not looking quite as good as what I would have hoped. It's pressed down through a couple of days ago, pressed down through that 7,500, just has reacted off there, but seen this type of price action, got this big push up to 79, you got this reaction, it started to lift off 25, but that was a bit of a grind. You can see that it's only minor higher highs, higher lows, and so on as it ground up. This little, those first cracks appearing back at the start of the year. Was it the start of the year? Sorry, start of August. And then we popped up, retested those highs, and then we've sold off and taken out these lows, a lot of these lows, and retesting down towards that 75, even washed it out slightly. So don't be surprised if this market pops up a bit and builds a lower high and starts to have a much deeper correction. So you'd have to go back to the weekly. Still that weekly anchor levels down towards 7,000. So there's a lot of room to move down there if it is going to flush out a few of these buys. And you can look right back to 2018 and pretty much most of 2017, if you take all that into account, a lot of that move up, it was a real grind, was flushed out at the start of the year. And then it's popped back up to the highs. You got any sort of that maybe euphoria, people chasing the markets thinking, okay, we've had the big flush out, off we go again. And then just in May, it cleaned out the previous highs, and then we're starting to grind from there. So I don't think the FTSE is looking too great, especially on the daily. And on the weekly, look, it could be coming under some pressure as well. I think they've got their own Brexit issues they're still trying to work through. Whether or not they're going to end up with a deal from Europe or not, which is going to be a bit of a problem. The DAX, yeah, the dailies, you can see that daily sort of grinding lower. Better off looking on the weekly on this one. And just what we were saying, let's just draw that up. I think it's just broken down. So looking at the DAX and what they're doing over there. This is the sort of that your weekly trend up. You can see that was holding, and it's just probably as of last week, it's starting to show that this lower high is taking control, and you've got the sellers seem to be starting to take control. We've got a clear sort of a level. I guess it's just testing on those lows now. It's going to see how it opens tonight. See if we can press down through that low, and then you're going to start attacking down towards 11,750, and then from there, we're sort of going into corrective mode. So if you take it from that high to low, and you extrapolate that down, it's going to take you somewhere potentially down towards 11.2, maybe 11,000 if it extends a bit more, down to sort of that 11,000 mark. That's if it's just a corrective phase. Otherwise, if it's a free fall, it can go. I mean, there's no holds barred, I guess. So we'll see. I mean, it's looking like that's starting to show a few cracks, a few signs of strain on the DAX, which again could be linked in. I mean, it's probably the last, what was that? That's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday when it started falling over. And we really probably, that was Wednesday, I think the 15th. Yep, Wednesday night when it started breaking down and it's just showing signs of the sellers really starting to take control and holding that lower high, pressuring this level down here, whatever that is. That low, what's that low down there? 12, say 12.1, 12,100. So if that can't hold up, yeah, we're going to deeper correction and we'll start to potentially just blow through that 11.9, 900 level. All right, XJO. Look at that. It's a bit of a reverse at the moment. We are getting stretched up here. We are on the daily after breaking through. We're looking at that 6,300 for a while now. It's popped its head through. You can see on, was it the 9th? Backed off from there, held a higher low. Next couple of days, it sort of rammed up through. And then this candle was quite interesting. It did sell off and get rejected quite fast into the close. And that was on was it the 16th? So that was Thursday. So that was an interesting little day there. Friday finished on a positive note. Today, like I said, we're only up 10. I thought from the futures were pointing up about 20 to 25 points, I think, or 25 to 30 points, something along those lines. So it was looking a bit more positive after the US close from what the SPY futures were showing us, but we couldn't quite hold on to any gains on the open. I think we've got as high as 63.58. And we're just hovering up 10 points at the moment, hovering around that zone, getting a bit stretched. And if you look at the weekly too, look, it's hovering around that sort of overextended mark on the upside. And that would probably take us, I don't normally look at this sort of stuff, but if it's trending, just what's happening on the top end of the range. So we've got sort of support through here. Potentially we've got this sort of resistance zone, which again, this market can keep grinding up to 68, up to our all-time highs anyway. There's nothing to say it's going to stop. I mean, just because it's in overbought territory, it could stay there overbought for the next few months and the market just keeps grinding high and trades to our all-time highs. And maybe we react up there at 68. But either way, the weekly, you can see that weekly is pretty much heading higher. The daily, if you go back to the daily chart, it's heading higher. Our anchors are probably down around 62.25 at the moment. Maybe just below 62 if you've got a bit of a wider anchor to that trend up, and we're starting to curl up. So this market can easily just get a bit of a run on the next few days. You don't know. So imagine if China, that's probably going to affect us better than the rest of the world. If China come out, or China and the US make some sort of deal, might take a bit of pressure off commodities, a bit of pressure off our market, and we might get a bit of a run from that. If that's what's happening, who knows? Copper has been struggling with any talk of China and the US having a bit of argy-bargy, and now there's talk of a deal. I think China's bounced the last couple of nights. Sorry, China's bounced. Copper has bounced. But then again, if it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not the trade tariffs and the trade war concern we're worried about, or the bears are spruiking, it's now the Turkish lira and potentially emerging markets. But I see that as fundamentally having a few more, a bit, how do you say, a bit solid, a bit more solid, a bit more weight to it on that side. Does anyone follow, sort of the global news? You keep an eye on the global news, potentially what's happening there with emerging markets. If not, maybe email me if you want that article. Just it's quite interesting. I mean, you always get, don't forget, with news, anything that's coming out. I guess if you're relatively articulate, you can sound convincing on any side of the market, bulls or bears. I think what the article was alluding to is we could have a big crash, and it's waiting for the, the reserve to kick in their money-making machines and print more funds like they did through the GFC, and then that's going to support the markets, and then you get gold potentially bouncing, having a good bounce on gold. But on the flip side, they say if something doesn't happen, it's all over. We're in some big strife. You got the Fed Reserve in the US crashing, falling apart. So that's a bit doomsday for me, and I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be just interesting to see if what he's saying plays out at all, or to what extent if it does. All right, let's. Any questions, guys? Just chuck in some. What we're saying, put in some charts, put in some stocks you want to take a look at. Yeah, throw it about, and we'll see how we're going. At the moment, the most recent one we just got into. I'll show you this first, TER. So actually, it got up a bit higher than that, 55, 56. That's looking okay. Bought that on the inside level. That's trending nicely higher. It's the weekly chart that looks quite good. It's had this big push down, a good, strong, healthy rally, and then the market grinded down again, trying to test down to these lows, and it couldn't do that. It held up around that 20 mark, and it started to lift again. So the last probably a few months, it's been on the rise. So we'll see if this can continue higher and start attacking some of these. Well, it's got really your next level's right at $6, so I don't think that's too much. It's probably that whole number on the dollar mark. Apart from that, we really haven't got too much in the way at the moment. So yeah, that's our good one for the day. And of course, our other one got done on news again. So it's probably going to cost me a bit. Oh, well, it happens. So this one, NAN, they actually opened up, traded up. We missed the profit target of about 3 cents, a partial exit, which would have locked in a few percent gain. I don't know, about 5 or 6% gain, maybe. Missed that, and of course, it turned around and just dropped like a stone. Traded through 330, where we raised our stop to just the other day. So it's a bit of a, I mean, it happens. It's part of trading, nature of the beast. It's a bit of a bummer when you see that. There's been quite a few lately when the markets are not going on quite as hard, and it's probably something to be said rather than just sit there with the profit target, sitting in the market, waiting for it to get hit. Being a bit more active when the markets are a bit more uncertain. And if you're seeing things run out of steam and it just can't, a few days in a row where it's just struggling, because if it's a strong market, you'd expect that to kick on. If it's just running out of steam, your indicators are showing potentially, like I look at stochastics, they're getting a bit overcooked, and it's just not finding the buying pressure you want to see. It's better off just taking a partial there. If you're wrong and it continues high, it doesn't matter too much. It just seems to be more often than not, I'm falling a bit short of some of these partials. There's probably been the last 3 or so that we've been stopped out on. Turned around, knocked us out for a smaller loss, but we missed the profit target by inches. So, and there's a couple it was on, what's the most recent one that actually did bounce back? Domino's, DMP. So we got crucified on that. Probably could have taken a partial the previous day, which would have been, I guess, a smart move. Just missed that, got stopped out, and the thing just bounced straight back again. So, it's probably something to be said about taking a winner there when it's just running out of steam especially the day before earnings, when at the moment they're getting crucified if they don't beat or hit the mark. What do we got? CPV. The only other one we've got, I think it was MYX, which is tickling along okay. Tickling along okay. Again, that's one I'm edging towards a potential just taking a partial soon on this one too. It's trading 98. It's been struggling just up at that 98 mark. What do we got to on Friday? High of 98.5, so only 0.5% higher. We've got something up near about 105, 104. I'd probably, and that's assuming that we're just continuing. At the moment, I'd rather see this type of price action washed out, and it's starting to it's looking like we could be. I mean, you never know, this thing could just kick on from here. Just getting a bit tentative as it's getting up towards that dollar mark, that whole number. So it's worth, I'm looking at it now, I'm just sort of debating them with myself whether to take a partial and leave the stop where it is, 87.5, and that way we've locked in a small gain at least, or just let it go and see if it can run on. But we'll see. Well, it's still, I mean, the weekly charts are still looking quite good. You can see that weekly chart is ever so slightly grinding higher. which is going in the right direction. It's looking good. And the last one, I think I've got everything, haven't I? Well, I just missed something. XRO. XROs. I mean, that's looking like it's getting a bit extended on the daily as well. The weekly sort of could have a bit more room to move on the weekly. I want to see that just kick up through. It's right there now. What's that high? 47.81. We're just touch below that now. So we're right up in those previous highs, and that's your all-time highs. So I would expect if this can pop up through 48 or that high, it could get a quick little spike because it's into new all-time highs. But we'll see how that one goes. Haven't got a profit target on that one, but we'll be looking at it soon. All right, so let's get off on CPV. Start off there. That's new, is it? Clearview Technologies. Was this renamed? What do they do there, Magna? Mr. Vince, I call you. Here we go. CVO is focused on technology. Oh, sorry, development of specialty glass coatings, including on its micro and nano photonic particle doped glass interlayer. God, if you can understand that, that's probably worth a buy. You're an energy company which seeks to play an important role in meeting the world's current and future energy requirements in a clean, safe, and sustainable manner. That's very interesting from an engineering point of view. All right, let's look at the chart then. There's not much, obviously, not much data. So there's not really much to talk about. What's happening in the news of these guys? What's the latest? Through Curtin Wall product passes test to Aussie and New Zealand standards. Notice of general meeting response to ASX price query and volume. Technology design breakthrough. So it's looking like it looks like they're kicking goals a bit, to be honest. Without reading into that too much, so the latest announcements have got it looks like they're patenting their technology. They've got some new technology. It's passing standards. So I can't see what else. It's a bit of a headwind for the market. So going back to the chart, had that. Obviously, it's floated. Oh, it's come onto the ASX. What date was that? 25th of May. Obviously, you get the few, the IPO buyers selling, booking a bit of cash from the open. Don't know where the IPO may have been. If it was around 20 cents, it's probably not much profit taking on the first day. It's obviously backed off there, and then you started to lift. Okay, just about near the high on this day, backed off, high low, got a run on, another high low, and got a run on up to about 45 cents. Where we've seen, and you probably find that's more clear profit taking from anyone that's been in the IPO, starting to look to book some gains. I'm assuming that the IPO is around 20, 25 cents or 15. Generally, I tend to find that around 20 cents. So we've got a bit of a sell-off, and that's taken us down to about 22. It's just whether or not this, let's just go here. And this is all, it's harder doing your technicals off something that hasn't been going for too long. So you had the market, this sort of action looking nice, and then you've got it popping up lower high. That's your technical, what is it, shoulder trade, shoulders, head and shoulders, that's what I was looking for. Bit of a sell-off, but then we started to lift again, and you can see this price action. So we've just taken out, it's only really minor levels through here, the next level sort of up towards that 38. So whether we're going to back off here and hold another higher low and start to go up through 38, it is obviously, it did get a bit extended up here. There's not too much volume on this sort of move up, in the same, there's not too much volume on the sell-off either, unlike what we saw previously. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe we roll over, we might test some of these lows and then look to see if we can hold another higher low. I mean, if we come back down and test this low, or even here around 20 to 20, sorry, at 30 to 32, hold this trend, and I think it's got good enough news supporting it to, drag it up. I would suspect it's looking, I mean, the news flow is looking quite good. They're doing the right things. It's just whether it's been out there long enough, or it's got some following where you get some buyers to start dragging it in. Buyers to start jumping in and dragging it higher. All right, Super V, KMD. G'day, Lauren. Kathmandu. It is. I mean, that's a slow grind higher. The last few years, it's really just, it was about June when it gapped up and it's kicked on a bit. It's whether or not a bit of heat's coming in this market or it's going to curl back up again. Your anchor's really down around that 265. LERFF. Just sent out an alert on that. All right. So I'd say that's your anchor 265 should this move up. You see, I'd assume that's all one move. And then you've got this type of price action. It's kicked off. We've had that major move down. That leg up is in potentially two moves, or are we just going to get? So you can see you break this down. It's something like this. So it's potentially going to get supported. So you can see if you've just drawn it that way, it's not quite there yet, but I'll be looking for, where are we? We've essentially opened down at that zone and we've popped back up again. So about here. If you've got your resistance zone, you need to get through that 290 zone. You've got a bit of a support, so it could just consolidate through here. It could do it as long as it wants, really. Ideally, I'd want to see it pop out, just get through the resistance, and then I'd look for a high low to work off. It's as simple as that, I guess. Just finding your higher low, and all the higher lows suggesting to me that buyers are happy to step in at higher levels and willing to support that stock to take out, was it 305 highs and continue that move on. It's just how much. So what I don't mind this price action at all. We can chop around in there for a while because what it's going to do is just drag out some of these buyers who bought it late, potentially off 265, that don't want to risk too much, that don't have such a high risk tolerance, I guess, or some of these buyers that bought it in a bit late, that don't have that high risk tolerance. They're not willing to hold it for too long, just to get squeezed out of the market and put them back on the sidelines. As long as it holds up that 275 support zone, if it could do that, and then you start, and if it chops around here, it can do it as long as they want. But as soon as you start to get that pop up through 290, it's a bit of a show of strength in buyers, and they pop out, and then maybe get that initial reaction. Anyone that may have been holding it for a while still go, "Look, I'm just taking. I've got a few extra cents in this. I can't wait. I'm getting impatient. I'm getting out," and that's where you get this little push down. And if that's met with some buying at a higher level, so buyers are wanting to step in and not willing to wait anymore, if they've been waiting on the sidelines to get in and they're watching it pop up through 290, they don't want to miss out, and they got their first opportunity on a bit of a pullback to jump in. And if you can see that, then obviously you've got your buy entry, you've got your risk to manage it off just below those lows, the higher low, and then you got confirmation that buyers are showing a bit more strength than they were previously, and that could hold. And again, it's going to be above that anchor for this move up at 265, and if all that plays out great, then you'd expect it to take out 305 and just continue on up. Just see what the weeklies are showing. And then your probably next port of call is going to be up towards these highs around 380. Reporting on the 18th. Reported 18th to the 9th, are they? Right, so there's a bit in that. Be interesting to see if it can drag up and push up through to 380 before then. All right. That makes any sense. Next one, IAG. I wouldn't be surprised, sorry, just to lastly touch on this. If this does accelerate up into the highs prior to, was it the 18th, prior to next month, the earnings. IAG. IAG. Friday. Sorry, Alan, just seen you coming through there. All right, IAG for dividends. What are their divs? Day of this announcement 15. They go ex-div on tomorrow, is it? Tomorrow. Dividends at 20 cents. Oh, look, it depends obviously where you bought it. Might have just dropped out there, guys. Obviously, yeah, it depends where you bought this, but well, after Friday's move, what actually happened on Friday? Is anything that's triggered that sell-off? Just market presentation, media release. It's just financials, is it? They might have missed their targets a bit. Is there anything I can assume? Just don't look like they're doing the low margin. It's gone up. Quarter margin's gone up. I like this one. It's not down, it's sideways. Net profit after tax. It's actually down, isn't it? I like to say it's down. Cash earnings. Okay, dividends, 33, 34. It's okay. So it looks like, yeah, they may have just missed estimates on this on IAG. Yeah, it's one of those things. I think tomorrow it'll open down, what, 20 cents. I don't know if I wouldn't assume it's been factored in just because of that move down, but I'm not a big one. I don't like commenting too much on the dividends because it depends what your outlook is. If your outlook, I mean, this is trending up. If you're happy to hold this for a while, it's still going up. It's still doing well. I mean, forgetting all about the dividends on the weekly chart, even moving it back, that's a nice healthy chart. So let's look at that. Got a clear sort of support zone through here, probably a tad higher too, around 3 to 275. Market's moved up, it's come the way back down. Then you've got the markets pressed up into sort of that resistance area around 675. And then it's reacted off there, built a nice high low at $5, and then we're getting that push up. So if you're just looking from low to highs, taking it from say 3 to 675 roughly, 375, add that to 5 is 875. Well, that's only just about here, maybe $9. It could extend to $9, so the even mark. That's your monthly, don't forget. Go back down to your daily. There could be still another move up there. So it could just start also looking at that longer term chart. Spend a lot of time just massive consolidation if you're looking at it this way. Nice high low, but spend a lot of time really just grinding its way up. If that's what's going to play out that way. But on the daily, I like the weekly a bit better. That daily's a bit choppy. So that's that sort of grind down. Your next, let's say your anchor on the daily is around that 70.40 mark. It's clear on the weekly. I like all of this. I mean, you can see the market held through here and buyers are stepping in at higher levels. And it does it a bit. You sell down, the market's pressed down, built the higher low, pushed up through this, well, essentially through that anchor. Just washed it out a bit, pulled back, built a higher low, took it out a bit more, and then had to have a deeper correction. And then it sort of started that move up as well. Move up, deeper correction, move up. Maybe this is what we're just getting now is a deeper correction. So I'd say if we can hold up above, it's about 730, 35, 735. I wouldn't worry too much about that candle. And I would be looking for just your typical, if we just go back 2 steps, that's 1, 2, we had that move up, sort of that 2 moves down. This is where your anchor is, down here. I'd want to see, spend a bit of time maybe holding up here. So buy stepping in at higher levels. You can see that bit of a squeeze the market and then start head higher. That way you know where you're going to put your risk, just below the high low. You've got evidence of other people supporting the stock, not yourself, but jumping in to support that stock and pushing higher. We spooked a few, yeah. Helen, you're talking about, I'm guessing on IAG. Big gap down, probably spooked a few holders. I think we're talking about this, aren't we? Yeah, all-time highs too, if you are. Yeah, that gap down spooked a few people, you're right. So, where was it, back to this weekly? If we can do that, I just want to see a bit of time play out before we do that. So, you know, if we can hold higher lows, buyers are stepping at higher levels, supporting the stock, and away we go. Then you probably find it's just going to tick up towards 9 and through or thereabouts. We'll see how it goes. Oh, no worries, Alan. So yeah, but either way, you know, holding up to divs, I guess, just depends where you got it. You'd know it's probably going to open down because of the dividends, and it may, because it's had a good little washout the last few days. You know, that little gap down, and it's rejected there quite healthy. It might look, it might hold up okay. It's an each way bet, really, on dividends. But that longer term trend, it's looking good. Web, we got AJX. Okay, done that AJX. Oh, RFF. Ooh, get a move on. So RFF. We just set an alert, and this is basically what I'm looking at on RFF. Rough. You can see that market is definitely heading higher there. You've got support through here, looking good. You've got that contraction, but it's probably just today we've just popped up. So it looks like we've got a good support zone just below $2. It's held up. It's been touched 1, 2, 3 times, held up. So the market was essentially catching up to it rather than it pulling back to the MAs. The market was, that average was catching up to the price, and we're just starting to pop out. So really from here, I'll just be looking for maybe an inside high low to work from. Well, if we can make it a bit straighter. So again, you know exactly where your risk is going to be below the high low, and you're looking for it to continue this press up and start attacking the highs at 210 and above. So either way, that I think that looks quite healthy. RFF, what's the next one? KMD, AJX, downtrend. Now weekly's not looking too great on AJX. Actually, it's looking horrible. So you get a low at 10 cents. It's essentially, you know, it worked up off 10. That was way back in 2015 to the highs around $1.15. And since then, it's been all downward pressure. The market's tried to pop up. It's met by more selling. It's tried to pop up, more selling. And you can see the difference in the early price action. When probably there was probably some buyers around willing to jump in and give it a go. And you've got maybe that's news driven, that big candle, that weekly candle here, it popped up, couldn't take out this high at around 95, and then selling pressure come in, took out the lows. The anchor was more or less around that 50-cent mark. That's probably this price action is a bit, and that price action is a bit different to what we're seeing here. There's been a steady decline, and you can see it's just how much selling's come out of the market. Whether all the selling's done, whether it's getting exhausted, or whether or not we're starting to see it's coming to a point where, you know, buyers want to start stepping in. On the weekly, it doesn't look like they want to start stepping in at all. You know, we're getting extended to the upside here, so the pressure to push it from 10 to say 20, I know it's double in price. It's 100% gain if you bought it at 10 or roundabout. It's taken a bit of effort, and in context of what's happened in the past, yeah, that market's in a downtrend. So from a weekly chart, I wouldn't touch it just yet. From a daily, it's still really not showing me any signs. It's hard to pick a clear anchor level where it's holding the market bias down, and the market bias has changed. Um, the only thing is potentially, I mean, I like the things to just to look a bit clearer than that, because I'm very picky. Whoops, get that, take that, get that out of the way. The only sort of thing I think working for it, just trying to think of some, maybe this is a little minor level, and then you got support holding up just above 10, say 10.5. It has popped up, built that little minor lower high, retested it, secondary move up. This selling pressure down here from 20 down to 16, it's taken it from overbought right down to oversold territory. So it's been, from the indicator, it's been some heavy selling, fairly heavy selling, and it's been met with some buying at higher levels around that 16 mark. So that's probably a first inkling that maybe buyers are starting to step in, or the selling's getting a bit more exhausted. And it's had a hell of a lot of selling the last few years, I guess. Yeah, so for me, I'd be really just sitting there watching this. I think there's better ones to pick from. I mean, it is coming down to a clear level. It hasn't done much volume at all. It's only 15,000 today. So yeah, just keep an eye on it. I mean, I don't even like that as really a setup through 20. I don't like to. It's quite a big percentage risk if I'm putting my risk below, say around 15. If I had that breakout at 20, I'd have to put my risk down here. I don't really. Yeah, I'd probably be inclined to just steer clear of this at the moment. All right, what's next? If I missed it, AJX, was that it? AJX. I got down web. Oh, web. I've been looking at that. That's a nice one. Nice pick, Lauren. So that longer term trend's up. It's just where we're going to go to. It's hard. This one had a good run up through 2015 towards the end of 2016. It started to go near vertical, and then a lot of heat's come out of that market. But it's very nice. The price has been this holding highs essentially. I don't need to take that whole thing. Yeah, up near that high and that low around 9. So it was around, was it? First line's a bit rough, isn't it? 9 and up just above 12. So it's pulled back, pushed up through the highs, couldn't go on with it to come all the way back down, but it's been held up around that $9 level. So considering we've had this strong move up, that consolidation is the top third of that leg up. So whether this, now that we're starting to head higher, whether this trend is going to be, quite strong, it could be from, was it $3 up to 12, 9, $18. It could be pushing up to $18. If you take it from that 9 up to 18, so it's $9 rally of, roughly equivalent to the first leg up. If you're looking at that, prime entry, we've got through 14, little minor level up here at 14. We've got 14.27. What have we got to today? 29 high, is that right? 29. What have I got wrong there? So it has just traded through the highs. It's deceptive, that. So today just did break through that high. So this price action is looking, it's looking positive. The gap up here, come back down, close that gap, held a higher low, good extension higher through 14, pull back, held a nice. I mean, that's nice. Chopping around above, around that 13 mark, sort of again the top third of this leg up. That's showing some good signs of strength. So it could just track nicely. Just keep grinding higher. It's looking good. Yes, cup and handle. A handle and a cup. So I'll just get a bit blurry there, aren't I? All right, any questions on that one? I think we've probably got through the bulk of it, eh? ATH, all-time high. Thanks, Lauren. Now that's making sense what you're talking about there, Helen. It gives me a good chuckle. All right, so that's probably about NWL. Let's look at NW, if I can spell it. net wealth. I used to like this one. I don't know. I haven't looked at it for a while. It is. It's cleaned out quite a bit. I think it's sort of at that spot where if it was going to be bullish, this is where you expect it to be doing something up here. So if you just chunk that, you can see that that zone through there, and we had that lift. What it's done, this is your minor anchor level through there. The market's had a pullback, just broken that anchor for this leg up. Didn't spend much time at all. Basically turned around from there. I went to test up to the highs. Essentially a double top. It did fall short. Probably about 15 to 20 cents of these. That touched on 10, say 25 cents. That was more. I was just sort of washing out the high. So you've got that zone from 9.80 to $10. So essentially for me, that's a double top. But after you got this leg up here, that leg's been broken. The anchor's broken with a move down to $8. It's come back and retest, and if it can't go through there, remember what we're saying. It's always going to have generally a deeper correction, just to build up more steam. So what it's done from there is had that deeper correction potentially, and I'm guessing if we can clear all this chart, just clear all that out, that would take you about in line to where it broke out previously. Yep. So it's come back then and retest sort of that breakout zone, which was way back in April. Yep, back in start of May, end of April, where it broke out just here. So if from here, what I'd ideally like to see is just that, a higher low, maybe 775. I don't like the fact that it's right up here. It's a bit overcooked on the daily, so I wouldn't buy it up. I wouldn't buy it just here. That's my personal preference. I'd rather see. I just think it's got that kind of structure. It's had a deeper correction. I'd rather see this, hold up from here. What do we got? 1, 2, retest the highs, deeper correction, down to support. I'd want to see obviously something like this, maybe a bit of contraction, then off she goes again off high lows, just to get some evidence. At the moment, there's no real evidence that the selling's finished. Just because it's retested, technically it's in a good spot, doesn't mean that it can't just sell off from here and just go, bang, straight back down again and right back down to 6,575. So you just want to see evidence of buyers stepping at higher levels. Yeah, yeah, true. $7. Yep. Thanks, Paul. See what happens when I don't read the notes. You start bagging me, which is good. I just finished my coffee, by the way. It's only the second for the day. Normally on to my third by now. All right. Yeah, cup and handle, Paul. It's I'm gonna have to draw it freehand, which I can't draw. I'm pretty sure what Helen was saying. You get a nice run up, and what you can get is basically something like that, and then the market can start kicking on and just getting, strength as it starts to kick on. So you're getting that sort of cup part. Correct me if I'm wrong, Helen. That cup part is sort of made up when markets don't quite break down as deep, and then you start getting, retests something like this, and it starts to lift up and lift up, so you sort of get that scooping price action. So when the market originally sells it quite hard, and the steepness of the sell-off is met by some buying. The buyers are starting to lift it, support it, start to lift it slowly. You get that curving price action for something that's gone up. And you're looking, ideally, that's what I'd love to see in every trade. It doesn't work out like that all the time, but that would be really nice. On web, yep. So that's what ideally, let's just go back and look at it on web. There you go. Rally starting to lift here. So we're starting to come out the other end of it. Probably, you could have got this little break through these highs. I was looking at this one. I think I saw it recently. 1354. That would have been very aggressive because it hasn't really proven itself, but it is off a minor, ever so slight high low. With the high low was right down here at 1313, this minor level, before it broke up here, pulled back, built another high low at 1350 thereabouts, started kicking on. I made that up very well. My cups are a lot bigger than others, especially for my coffee. All right, we'll probably have to we'll call it a day there, guys. I think I covered everything. I was gonna search for LOL, Gino, see if that's actually a good little stock. All right, we'll probably call it a day there, guys. Thanks very much for joining us. We will be back in on Thursday, obviously. I hope you enjoyed that talk with Devon and myself, or what Devon was going through on was it Thursday. I hope you found that useful. I really do like listening to Dev, not all the time, but when he's talking about trading, so he's got a lot of little intricacies that he sees that still always learning bits and pieces from him. So it's good to hear him, and the way he explains things is really nice too. So if you that was on Thursday, Gino, last Thursday. So it's the latest one in there, if that's what you're talking about. Or I'm probably answering something from late. Anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us there, guys. If you want any more sort of talks like that, we could probably get Davin in every now and then. Or if you want something geared up more around your technical basis than just staring at charts and analyzing charts each time, then yeah, just let us know. Yeah, and you heard the girls in the background there, Helen. Yeah, they were working away furiously. All right, thanks, guys. We'll join you. Well, I'll speak to you again on Thursday. Have a great day. Bye.